we'll go to, we have our speakers in our midst, but we'll have Dr. T.K. Kharbamon as the first speaker. And Dr. Kharbamon currently serves as the Vice Chancellor of Martin Luther Christian University in Shillong, Meghalaya. She holds a PhD in Applied Linguistics from the Northeastern Hill University. Dr. Kharbamon has extensive academic experience and has served as a faculty member at Lady Keane College for 16 years before joining Martin Luther Christian University. She has been instrumental in developing academic programs that focus on the documentation and preservation of tribal languages in the Northeast region. Her academic work spans applied linguistics, language preservation, and the critical role of indigenous languages in maintaining cultural identity. She is actively involved in initiatives that bridge research with community needs, especially in the area of tribal language documentation and revival. We welcome Dr. Kharbamon to speak on the topic preservation and impact of Northeast.
Very good evening to each one. And at the very outset, I would like to thank God for giving me this opportunity to share a few thoughts this evening with each one of you. Yes, I was a teacher for 45 years. I was formerly at Lady Keane College. Then I joined the English and Foreign Languages University, where I retired in 2021. And then I joined the Martin Luther Christian University. It's been 4 years now at Martin Luther Christian University. And it was there that I was introduced to Reverend Edwin Karkungor, who introduced me to this program of Brother Matthew. We got interacting, and that is why I'm here today. Well, I'm very glad, I'm honored. As I said, I thank God for giving me this opportunity of sharing a few thoughts this evening with each one. Well, the topic of my presentation this evening will be on language creation and literary development in Northeast and tribal India. Next slide, please, Matthew. Well, we live in a very linguistically diverse region in the country where we have 780 plus languages across 4 plus language families. And in the Northeast, we have 220 languages across 8 states. The problem in the Northeast is that all the languages were purely oral traditions before the 19th century. We had no writing systems, and naturally, where there are no writing systems, there is no documentation, and of course, following that, we have the dearth of educational and instructional materials. Next slide, please, Matthew. Of course, the lack of a written system of the language had challenges, which includes educational barriers. I will not have the time to elaborate on these, but we are prone to cultural vulnerability, we have limited communication and political marginalization, and of course, economic disadvantages. Next slide, please. But there was a transformation with the coming of the Christian missionary. Well, their mission was that if they have to preach the gospel, they have to learn the language, and the language, of course, has to be documented, and the Bible has to be translated. And therefore, the Christian missionaries' initiative was to transform these oral tradition of languages into a writing system. And therefore, they adopted the Roman script to transform these oral traditions into the written literary languages, which of course naturally opened up avenues, which opened up pathways, both to the development of education and of course to the growth of literature. Next slide, please. Of course, it was not easy for the Christian missionaries. There was a lot of effort on their part in order to translate these oral traditions into their written forms. So they had to adopt a methodology which was very stringent. They had to have an elaborate and detailed analysis of the language and collaborate with, of course, the local native speakers. They have to test and refine the script they had developed, and the script had to go through a very rigorous standardization process before it got adapted into the language community, into the language. Of course, we have major success stories in the different states of the Northeast, and I will not be able to give a very detailed explanation of these success stories because of the constraints of time, but we've just picked on a few of the Northeastern states and a few of the pioneers who have really initiated this transformation in the Northeast of the country. Well, we have in Mizoram, we have pioneers like Mr. J.H. Lorraine, who is very respectably addressed as Pu Buanga, and Mr. F.W. Savage, who has been honorably addressed as Pu Saba. These were the ones responsible for making Mizoram have the highest literacy rate in India with 91.55%. And these two pioneers have not only preached the gospel, but have also developed a comprehensive dictionary which encouraged the development of contemporary literature. And as I said, I will have no time to delve into the different contributions that they have given, but let me just tell you, let me reiterate that these two servants of Christ, Pu Buanga and Pu Sapa, have contributed in a manner that was so impressive because now we have people from Mizoram, authors, literary artists, who have really made national recognition. And therefore, we thank these two servants of Christ who have really opened up Mizoram to the rest of the world by adapting the Roman, please. Now we have the Khasis. Now I belong to the Khasi community, and we had an oral tradition, of course. These oral traditions, they use a language that talked about their myths and their folklores and their legends and their stories. But unfortunately, these could not be documented. But we really take this opportunity to thank Thomas Jones in 1841, who pioneered the act of turning, of transforming this oral language into a written system. And so the first systematic Roman script for the Austroasiatic language, which is also part of the Mon Khmer group of languages, has really opened up the Khasi community to the world. We are now very confident, we are now very proud of who we are, our identities, because of the Roman script that was introduced way back in 1841 by Thomas Jones. And this particular language continues to be used dynamically now 180 years now. And this particular language has also helped to build a strong literary tradition. Next slide, please, Brother Matthew. And we have also the Santali tribe with the missionaries L.O. Scriffus Road and P.O. Bodding, who have also struggled to standardize this particular language through the use of the Roman script. And their work speaks volumes today because we have a 5-volume dictionary with 20,000 plus words to understand what and how the Santali language works. And then we also have a foundation for later indigenous, the All Chiki script of the Santali. And of course, the Roman script that had been introduced by these two servants of Christ have resulted in an extensive cultural documentation. Next slide. And then we also have other language developments, which, as I said, because of the constraints of time, we're not able to cover everything in detail. But we also have in Meghalaya, we have the Garo tribes, who also had a oral tradition. It was through the work of Miles Bronson, who who kind of captured the oral tradition, the oral language of the Garos, and gave them the systematic Roman script. We also have the Manipuris who've adopted the Roman script, but alongside with that, they also have their own script, which is the Meitei Mayak. And we also have the Bodo community, where we have missionaries who have also helped to kind of standardize the Roman script and this in their community, and thereby expose the Bodo community to the world and also help them build up their literary traditions. And we have the Nago languages, we have the Baptists who were responsible for the adaptation of the Roman script among the Aos, the Angamis, the Lothars, and the Semas. And today, the Nagas have have exposed their identities, their intelligence, their knowledge to the world because of the Roman script that they have adapted with the help of the missionaries. The next slide, please. And of course, we have other language developments, the Central and Eastern tribal languages. With the help of J. Hoffman, we have Mundari, who had developed a 15-volume encyclopedia. We have the Kuruk and the Orawan through Ferdinand Hahn, who has managed to also open up these particular communities to the world through transforming their oral traditions into the written Roman script. And of course, among the Hors, we have Reverend A. Not Trot, who also helped the community adopt the Roman script. It was not an easy task for these missionaries who have come to the northeast and the central part of the country to really work on these oral traditions. We can imagine their efforts, their struggles. We can imagine their passion and their mission. It was all through God's help that gave them the wisdom in order to make these communities known to the world today through the adaptation of the Roman script, through the work and the efforts of the missionaries who had come here. Now, the next slide, please. Now, because of the written script that had been given by the missionaries, we have a kind of a literary renaissance in the Northeast. We have the blossoming of Mizo literature. And again, I reiterate, I will not have the time to elaborate and to tell you about the different contributors, but some of them will include Liang Kalia, Zikpoepa, James Dokuma, and C. Tuamlua. And then among the Khasi literature, we have, of course, the famous Sosotham, we have Kinpam Singh Nongkanri, we have Desmond Karmoplang, or we have so many. There's so much of literary creative writings at the present, and all because of the Roman script. And among the Naga people, of course, there are many, but I'm just giving you a few names here. Temsula A, who happens to be my own teacher, and of course, Easterine Kira, who's opened up the understanding of the Naga people through their literary works and initiatives. And we also have Santali literature contributed by Nirmala Putul and Damayanti Bezra through, again, the Roman script. Without it, without the written Roman script, without the work of the missionaries to transform the oral traditions of these tribes into its written format, we would have missed all these excellent contributions. The next slide. Yes, of course, we have a lasting impact. The adoption of the Roman script, the adoption of the written system of the language has brought about an educational revolution. Now we have the desire to improve on mother tongue education. Of course, we have the English language, which we have been using in our schools, in our colleges, our institutions. But at the moment, we are also looking at promoting mother tongue education. And thanks to the NEP 2020, we are looking at promoting mother tongue education because cultures are being blurred, and it is important for our young people to also be aware of the richness of their own mother tongue. And of course, we have a lot of development in terms of curriculum and syllabus. And we also have adult literacy programs all over the Northeast states, teacher education programs, which will really help teachers, professionals to improve on their careers and follow what is called the continuous professional development. And most important, as I mentioned earlier, because of the impact of globalization, cultures are now become very blurred. There is a tendency for cultures to be hybridized, and therefore it is important for a young people, it is important for the youth to preserve their culture, to remember their roots. And this is possible only through the Roman script, which has been introduced by the missionaries. And now, therefore, there are efforts to document the folklore, the folk tales, the legends, and the myths, and to pass on these documentations to the younger generation. And of course, we have a lot of traditional knowledge which needs to be encapsulated. We have a lot of traditional knowledge that needs to be preserved, that needs to be, pass over to the present generation. This is, of course, again, with the help of the Roman script. And of course, we have the ethnographic records now, which are possible because of the written language system. And of course, we have the development of publishing infrastructure, we have digital language initiatives. We've been blessed in numerous ways, and all these would have not been possible at all without the intervention of these servants of Christ who have traveled all their way and left their comforts to come and give us what is so important, the written language system. The next slide, please. And so we have a transformation that is complete. Now 50 plus languages have been transformed. We have a 90% of plus of literacy rates. And of course, we have, as I said earlier, a national and international recognition. And of course, through the written language system, we are able to preserve our culture and also expose our culture to different parts of the states in the country, and also to have a global recognition. So all these are only possible because of the servants of Christ, and they had followed this particular mission, which in the letter to 1 Peter 4:10-11 says, each of you should use whatever gift you have received to serve others. Indeed, it is the gift of the strangers. It is the gift of the Christian missionaries who had come all the way, left their comforts, left their luxuries, left their homes and families to be with us, work with us tirelessly in order to give us what we have today, which is the richest thing that I can give us, the written language script. Thank you very much, and God bless each one of you.
Indian Christian Day. Yeshu Bhakti Divas. Love, serve and celebrate.